What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into the Madhouse. And we are talking about the Lucky 10K and the Second Chance 5K that was put on by Southside Gaming this past weekend, and it was an event. But before we get started, I'm going to do something new at the start of each video, and we're talking a piece of Disney trivia. And for today, the very first one, it's about Aladdin. In Aladdin, Jafar has three wishes. All right, spoiler alert. What is his final wish? And here's your hint. In the original and in the remake, they are different. They accomplish the same thing, but they are worded differently. If you want the answer, you're going to have to stick around. I'll let you know the answer at the end. But in the comments, let me know if you got the answer correct. And also, hit me with a piece of Disney trivia. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to throw it up on the screen for the next video. And that's kind of what we'll start doing. And we'll see how it takes off. If anything, we learned some Disney magic. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this awesome event, this awesome weekend put on by Southside Gaming. And like I said, they put on a lucky 10K tournament and a second chance 5K. Now look at these prices, first of all. $25 entry, $15 entry. First place walked away with $3,000. I think first place walked away with 1.5, if I'm not mistaken, but just absolutely insane. And let's talk about community. I believe for the 10K, the top 8 split, and then they gave a little bit extra to whoever took first. So they still played it out just for fun and glory and for the stream. And then I believe top 4 split for the second chance. I may be wrong. Don't shoot the messenger, okay? But it's awesome. This is the second 10K they put on, and we're gonna get some more spoilers, but they've already announced that they're gonna put on another 10K, gonna put on even more events. They also announced that they're putting on a 10 case tournament on March 8th. That's the first day after release. The release of the new set of Arcadia Island comes out on March 7th, and then the very next day, you're playing in a 10 case tournament. And for $15, ladies and gentlemen, it's insane what they're doing. Southside Gaming is really putting stores on the map of what you can do. And it's just really awesome to see. This is down in Margate, Florida. So if you're in that area, even if you're not, it might be worth a drive and then just head on over to Disney World afterwards. But just stellar. So really big shout out to these guys. They're nothing but awesome. I've been working with them to try and get our 1K going at Safari Zone in Smyrna. They've been nothing but helpful for that. Their streams have been great. The casting has been wonderful. Just amazing events. On top of, for these events, they also hosted these on-demand pods, so where you could win a box and an enchanted. And like, it's just awesome. Something to do all day to keep yourself entertained, to have a good time, to see a lot of great players, because a lot of the names on these deck lists you're going to recognize. The other thing I wanted to say before we get into the first deck list is make sure you check out my set 7 card reviews video, because I announced my 1K subs giveaway. So get in on that. We have a whole bunch of product that I'm giving away. We're going to have multiple winners for that, so check out that link in the description. But also check out the links for all of Southside Gaming's social media pages, things like that, because the more support we give them, the longer they're going to be able to put on these events and continue to support the Lorcana community in such a big way. But ladies and gentlemen, let's talk some stats really quick. The first 10K event was 137 people, and honestly, I have no doubt in my mind that it would have been more. They just don't have the room yet. And I'm sure, if I know the owner at all, he is working to fix that issue as we speak. But 137 player event. This was the color breakdown. Amber Steel, just holy crap, 34 players playing on Amber Steel. We got 20 on Ruby Sapphire, 19 on Purple Steel, 18 on Ruby Amethyst, 11 on Green Purple, and then others. So if you want to do the math, whatever that comes out to. But in top 8, we had 2 on Steel Song, 2 on Red Blue, 2 on Purple Steel, 1 on Blue Steel, and 1 on Green Steel. This is wild. I wasn't able to get a deck break or a color breakdown for day 2. From what I hear, though, these numbers flip-flopped. So whether it's people saw this number and pulled out that second deck, but from what I hear, Red Blue really showed up on the 5K event. But let's talk winning lists. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Southside Games 10K is none other than Freddie playing some Steel Song. And Freddie would seem familiar because I believe he placed 7th at the first 10K that Southside Games put on. And this time he came in trying to get up there again, and he certainly did. He took first, and it was an awesome match to witness. He went really heavy aggro, running those 4 daisies and 3 piglets. So he just said, you know what? If I end up against red blue, I have the aggro line I need for it. If I end up against the mirror, I have all my singers. And instead of going for the really heavy, including those heavier, shift targets like the big Ariel or the big Cindy, he opted to just say, I'm just going aggro. I don't need World's Greatest Criminal Mind if I just win on turn 4, which I believe he did on the live stream when he dropped Daisy and then a Piglet and a 1-drop, and it was wild. I think he went Daisy, Piglet, and then a Piglet and a 1-drop on turn 3, just insane. And that game was over instantly. It was just done. It was crazy. But Freddie just really showed up. And what's really funny about this is that Freddie had messaged me a week before the event, maybe 2 weeks before the event, with a list. And when I was watching Freddie online, and that was awesome, we saw him win, and it wasn't until right before I went to bed, I was like, God, that name looks so familiar, and I realized it was him. And what's even more wild is the list that we had been talking about, and then what he ended up running. And I'll be showing that list off in my Set Champs recap video, but just really good job, man. I'm glad you're able to show up. I'm glad you got to relax on Sunday, go out with the boys that night, and just have a good time. But really great showing, and hey, it just feels even better that you beat Red Blue. But speaking of beating Red Blue, the second place was Jonathan Williams. This is a gentleman that the name should sound really familiar. He is known for being a Red Blue player. He continuously tops events that he goes to playing Red Blue. But when we look at his list, you're going to see a lot of this. You're going to see a lot of Felicia and a lot of these Red Blue lists that I show you. And, I'm sure it put in a lot of work, that Felicia answers the goofies, right? Because if you play Felicia and then they goofy into your Tipo, you can take out the goofy with Felicia. And that was an issue before because that wasn't there were issues being able to take out the goofies, right? So Felicia does that, but Felicia and Tipo also answer a Daisy Duck, which is great. Only the one Sizu, which I find interesting because getting that shift down is really important. But honestly, the baby Sizu with ice blocks is one of my biggest issues with Red Blue on Steel Song. So I find the only one interesting, but where you're only running 2 ice blocks and not 3, maybe that's the argument of we can't afford to run more Sizus because I have to have an ice block to really make her worth it. So we still, of course, rocking the Maui Half Sharks and Pirate's Life. That's pretty much a staple at this point. But we do see the 1 Let It Go, and we're seeing 3 Vitalospheres. So really making sure that we can, even playing a Vitalosphere and a Grammatala, and Grammatala being able to take out a Daisy Duck is pretty darn sexy. Vitalosphere, just being able to help give you any character rush is just so powerful because sometimes that's all they need is a rush character to answer something on the board that turn. So a standard, well, not standard necessarily. We see Felicia's McDuck Manor is becoming more and more popular in these Red Blue lists. Instead of the dime, you have Tamatoa brings back items and draw, and McDuck Manors can close things out while you Vitalosphere and clear out everything they use, let it go, answering characters. So a good list, just not good enough to beat my boy Freddie. But moving on, we have Jose taking 3rd place with Purple Steel. And Purple Steel just really showing up in this event and going crazy. We'll talk about Melissa in the 5K in a little bit, but Purple Steel just really showed up for this event. It's a deck that you have to respect because there's multiple ways to play it. We see Jose on this Rabbit and Zeus package, so the more tempo version, and those Zeuses being able to answer those Maui Half Sharks very well. We have Library for even more draw. So you lose the aggro aspect of things like just spamming docks over and over again for a little bit more of a slower game plan. But that worked really well for him, gaining him a third place finish. 8, 19, 11 one drops, opting for the 2 genies so you could throw in 4 rabbits. And those rabbits, again, just answering red blue really well, because if they board wipe you, then they get punished by the rabbits. And if you do have a library down, now they have to choose, do I take the time to answer the library first, or do I take the time to answer the board first and give them all the draw? So that feels bad. So Purple Steel just being this really annoying deck where it's kind of like this idea of Purple Steel is going to get to the win. Like, they're not worried about how I'm going to get to the win. Instead, they're forcing the opponent to say, how am I going to stop them from winning? In the sense of, they have Pete's for disruption. The libraries are annoying. They have the songs. Like, they have the reach for the goats and the roses. And in set 7, they're going to have that super annoying Cobra. So Purple Steel is becoming a deck that is just increasingly difficult to deal with, and something that it's not even green, but it has disruption that you don't want to see, with the repeat stuff and Calhoun stopping you from doing what you want to do. Just it's on the map. It's on the map. So good job, Jose. Really great showing. It was fun to watch you live. So let's move on. Next up, we have Ben, and Ben running Steel Song again. So we love to see the Steel Song support. And when we look at this list, it also went kind of aggro heavy. When we look at it, we only have 3 aerials. So opting, aerial is one of, if not the weakest card into the red-blue matchup. So opting to just cut that down, because now you can run other things. We still have the heavy aggro lineup of 3 Daisy, 3 Piglet, and 2 Lilo, which is awesome. So you do lose a little bit of your early game pressure against things like Purple Steel and decks like that, because you're only on 2 Ursulas and 2 Zeus, so you lose that ability. But at the same time, there's pressure when you go super heavy aggro. I love seeing the John Silver. I want to be able to put John Silver in like all of my lists. If I could put Piglet and John Silver in all my lists, then I would. And I don't. They're awesome. They're great. It quests for 3. It quests for 1. Stops a challenge. But what I really love is the captain, and the ability for Smee to just sit there and not take damage is just so powerful. Because a lot of decks, they just expect the Smee to take that 1 damage so they can take it out with something like a Chernobogs, or take it out with a Tipo in 2 turns. So the captain is just so big. It's such a big deal, and I love the synergy between Piglet, John Silver, and Mr. Smee. Next up, we do have 2 Prince Naveen's, and just really helping you. This Naveen's being really helpful in the mirror, especially where we're only on 2 Ursula, so those Naveen's are going to come in really nice. And then opting to go the 1-1 split with the big Cindy and the big Ariel for your top line shift targets. As far as songs go, looks like 16. We got 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, only 15 songs. So that makes a lot of sense to go down to 3 aerials when you're only playing 15 songs, because Ariel, I would imagine, whiffed a lot for Ben that whole day, and that's to be expected. Like, you can't even be upset playing a steel song deck and your aerial whiffing when you only play 15 songs. The percentages go down so much if you've already played 2 songs, if you already have 2 in your hand. So 3 makes a lot of sense when you're only playing 15. I think even going down to 2 wouldn't hurt if you wanted to, go a little bit more aggro and throw in like a 4th Piglet or a 4th Daisy, because this is very much a pretty aggro line. And you could even cut the World's Greatest. If you really wanted to go cut World's Greatest in another aerial, you go to 4 Daisy, 4 Piglet. At that point, you're getting pretty close to the Boomy aggro line, but we've seen time and time again how good that line is. But good job, Ben. I believe he was Team Forbidden Mountain as well. I don't remember off the top of my head. But either way, really good job, man. Love to see the Steel Song representation. Next up, we have another Purple Steel deck. We have Dylan taking 5th with this one also running the Rabbit and Zeus line. So, Melissa, you stand alone, but I'll elaborate on that in a little bit. But Looking at this one, it is kind of different because I don't believe the other one was running friends. Yeah, so no friends in the other one. I'm just all over the place. No friends, but this one opting to run that friend, so opting to get that draw power. We did cut the libraries, so now our draw instead of relying on library for draw power, we get the friends in here to do that. Still on the 4-2 split, which I think is a good idea because you're running the Zeus's, so at that point you're having a lot of 4-drop uninkables, so it's hard to want to go up to more genies. Um, Looks like some of the things we did, we also have an extra 1-drop, and but yeah, just doing a lot of the same stuff that the other purple steel list that I showed earlier that Jose was running was doing. And I personally don't like 3 crabs. I really like 4 crabs, especially when you're running so many 1-drops. They become those little tactical nukes, as I like to call them. But got took 5th place at 137 person event, so who are we to judge, right? So really good job, Dylan. I'm glad it ended so well for you. Next up, we've got Kurt Spice, being a traitor to us all. If you recognize that name, it's because he ran Amber Steel. He ran the Rapunzel's Tower package with Chin Pose at Continentals, and today he opted to go Emerald Steel, and still with songs though. So we'll give him the benefit. And I've said it before, I love the direction that Emerald Steel is going. I personally like the 4 Diablos, like the higher or I keep saying the higher Curse Merfolk and higher Calhoun count, but it worked for him. He took 6th place. I like this direction. I like 3 hidden coves. That third hidden cove really helping you to make sure you're not getting your stuff Sizu'd or brawled. Like that is just a phenomenal, and all your cards now trade into things really well. So I like the list. Opting for only 3 Prince Johns, so and 3 Muses. So he did a 3-3 split there. The 2 docks just to really, because sometimes you do just run out of cards, and that dock, we've seen it time and time again, we're just drawing 1 dock off the top is the difference between winning the entire game. So awesome job. The Zeus, that's interesting. He opted to throw that Zeus in, I'd imagine 100% because of Half Shark. And I bet that really came in clutch because you can use the only card that can sing it is your Muses, but normally you really want the Muses anyways. The interesting thing here is that Muses isn't a card I don't think you want to see when you're playing red blue, but it's also the only card that can sing Zeus. So the synergy is interesting. That is actually really interesting synergy. So I'd be curious if he was ever using Muses to sing it or if it was always hard casting, and if I mean, at the same time, if that's all you can do, normally you can't quest against a half shark anyways. So if the only thing you can do is hardcast a Zeus, that still feels like a good use of your turn, especially if you're playing a red-blue player that rushed to get to half shark. So I like it, man. I approve of this message. Not that that matters, right? I mean, you're a world's qualifier. So moving on to 7th place, we've got Lamb Chops, and this name will sound familiar. The man's been playing Blue Steel to success for many, many major tournaments now, and it looks, I don't know for sure, but this is pretty darn close, if not exact, at what he ran at Melbourne in Australia for the DLC there, where he took 4th. He was definitely top 8. I know that much. So, but looking at this list, I love it. You have Simba on turn 1, and that Simba letting you mulligan a little bit more heavy if you really wanted to go for something that you really need in this matchup. And so Simba lets you do that, and then they're like, oh, well, it's a really bad 1-drop. It only quests for 1. But you know what it's really good at? It's really good for a Pleakley target. Like, that's pretty darn sexy. Tipo is a great Pleakley target. So you have 5 cards now that you can play early before your Pleakley turn, and at the same time, those 5 cards are accomplishing something when you play them. So that is super powerful. The Argus coming in here, stopping Flynn Rider if you run into red purple. Also, though, it trades into Daisy Ducks, and Blue Steel's, one of the hardest things for them to handle is a deck that just goes blah with my hand and throws down everything and then just quests to 20 before blue steel can get going. So the Argus helps with that. The Pleakley helps with that because it can trade into things really well. So maybe you go Simba on 1, Tipo on 2, and then you go Pleakley on 3, and then turn 4 you can start trading into things with Simba and Pleakley. And then on turn 4 you're also getting your Tinkerbell down, or maybe you get your Pyros down to trade, like whatever it may be. Hopefully Tinkerbell, but and then, of course, you have this awesome Arthur and Pyros combo. So now you're getting to this area where you have Tinkerbell to do a lot of crazy stuff with Tinkerbell, grab your swords. You have Arthur, you have Pyros to start clearing boards. And then over here on Denial, like Twin Fire coming in. And we saw Twin Fire get used a lot by Lamb to blow up many different things. The Let It Go just being the easy removal card as well. So a really good list that a lot of people talk about how dead Blue Steel is, but we keep seeing Lamb continue to do extremely well with it. So I wouldn't say Blue Steel is dead by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it takes a really creative pilot to do really well with it. And Lamb is that really creative and good pilot with Blue Steel. So really good job, man. We love to see it, and I'm really happy for you. And then finally, taking 8th place, we have Hector and running red blue. Looking at this list, it is a mixture of old red blue kind of and some of that red blue burn. We've got the super goofs coming in here, gaining you some lore that way, challenging things really well. We've got 4 half sharks because that's, like I said, a staple now almost, and 3 pirates life. We've got the Scar, vicious cheater. We saw Scar we're putting in a lot of work. At one of my set champs locally, I didn't expect to see it, and it put in some work against me. But also the interesting one here is the 3 Hades. That 3 Hades is something that a lot of players just aren't going to expect, but it answers the Maui Half Shark really well. It answers their Tamatoas really well. So pretty good into the mirror, really good into the mirror in my opinion. I do find the 3 Sizus kind of sus, right? If I was to use that word. No ice blocks makes Sizu a lot worse in my opinion. One of the really powerful things about Sizu is the fact that you can use ice block to just get characters down to attack. So I do find that interesting. I'm curious how often that the big Sizu came in. And then the other problem is you don't have a shift target. So you're legitimately not playing this till maybe turn 6. If I think that's the fastest you could play it if you were ramping. And I don't know. I'd be curious how often that may have won him the game. But we still have the 1 hideaway, just answers McDuck Manors really well. We're still running 2 McDuck Manors because we're not running Dime. So I like it. It's spicy. It's different. 3 Vitalospheres still. So I don't know. It is very interesting. Sizu being nice because you're using Hades to control the board a lot. So if you B prep the board, then you lose all of this big tempo that you played with Hades and Vicious Cheater and Maui Half Shark. So opting to kind of still go that route even without the ice blocks. But really good job, Hector. Love to see it. So we're about to talk about the next event. It was 83 people. It was the 5K event. Like I said, I don't have a breakdown for this one, but let's get into it. And first up, we have Justin taking first at the 5K, and he is running the notorious red-blue burn deck that I think it's card for card. We got the 4 Goofies, we got the 4 Half Sharks, 4 Pirates Life, the 2 Let It Goes, the 4 Manners, and this deck just working to beat the mirror really well, and that's what it does really well. I do think that this is the better variant for Steel Song players, and from what I heard though, that this day at the 5K there were more red-blue players than Steel Song players. So what that means is that this deck is really going to shine because one of its weakest matchups being Steel Song and Purple Steel didn't show up as much. And because we saw it in the finals between Justin and Melissa on Purple Steel. It was a really close games because Purple Steel does so well at shutting down a lot of what this deck wants to do, especially if you're running the Zeus version with the rabbits and everything. But this deck, it gets things down. my piece of advice, if you really want to shut this deck down, you can't give goofy value. And that's really it. If you don't give goofy value, then you can work to control everything else, and they don't get that incremental lore gain from goofy early on. Because if they get that incremental lore gain early on with goofy, then all of a sudden they're already goofy represents at least 8 lore if they get all 4 of them, and there's a good chance they do. That McDuck Manor, if you can't always answer it in one turn, then represents 2, 4, 6, 8 lore. The half shark finishing things off by I played a half shark and I played a visions and a develop, and I gained 3 lore while digging, or 2 lore, and then I dig for another develop because that's only one cost 1, gains me another lore. So that's my advice. And then you also have to just maintain board. If you maintain board, then they can't afford to get characters down. So for Steel Song players, that's the route you want to take. Just go super wide, or you want to go wide enough, and then as long as you have that Zeus in hand or wide enough to strength the Maui Half Shark, then there's not a lot that they can do, and then eventually they B-prep, but hopefully you go wide enough again and go like that, and then you just ignore the McDuck Manors. Just don't even pay attention to them. You treat it like red purple when they ran castles. You're just like, cool, you just played a really bad castle. And that's my advice. But for you, Justin, getting back to the list, congratulations. Taking first place at an 83-person event is massive. So really good job. And next up, we have Melissa taking second at the Southside Games 5K, representing Team Forbidden Mountain and running the more aggro version of Purple Steel. So at the 10K, we saw the 2 more tempo versions with the Rabbit and the Zeuses, and now we see the more aggro version running the Dock package and no Zeus. And this version is just throwing everything down and playing a Dock and getting to those foxes and those snakes so they can start bouncing more Docks or bouncing more Pete's, bouncing goats for more reach, and going that direction. So you do lose the Zeus, which is a great answer for the shark. But if you go wide enough, you can use strength to blow up the sharks, or you start questing enough early on, and then you also have Genie and Crab that does a really good job of answering shark as well. So you bait them into having to use the shark to attack something. You keep Genie readied, so when they attack something with shark, then when you have your Genie down, you can Crab the Genie and take the shark out that way. And we saw Melissa just pilot this very well and pilot it into on the draw against red blue. That is just a tough place to be when you are a faster deck. So it was really fun to watch. It was a super exciting finals. So really good showing, and we love to see it. I think this version of Purple Steel is just so much fun. If you've never used a bounce to bounce the same Dock like 4 times, you haven't lived yet in Lorcana. But moving on, I have 3rd and 4th place here. And I did this not to, throw shade at either player. Their decks are just extremely similar, so I threw them on here. And when we look at the list, there's slight variances, of course, in Nathan, who took 3rd, and Zan, who took 4th. But Nathan running 1 Felicia versus 3 Felicias in Zan's, and then in Nathan's, he's running the 2 Mulans, and Zan doesn't run that, but the Mulan was something that we've seen pop up, and then some even going as far as running the shift target, but people were like, why is the Mulan in there? Well, Mulan on turn 4, which you're dropping on turn 3, answers Daisy Duck instantly, because you play this on turn 3, and if you're on the play, then that means Daisy only got 1 trigger. If you're on the draw, 2 triggers. And then Mulan lives. Mulan is now a 4/2 on the board that answers absolutely anything that they're going to play, and that's pretty sexy. So he opted to run the Mulans, which probably came in really nicely for him. When we look, they're both on 3 Half Sharks, 3 Sizus. They're both on Ice Blocks, so 3 and 3. Also opting to run the Great Stone Dragons in both these lists. So when I look at Great Stone Dragon, I think it's a little bit too slow of a meta for it, but both of these players showed that it's not. They showed that if it is a slow matchup, then I can just ink it and call it a day. And if it's a fast matchup, they can ink it. If it's a slower matchup, they can get that down and really capitalize on all that extra ink that their opponent won't have. So just really, really awesome. We see one Pirate's Life on both, two B preps on both, two Vitalospheres. Like I said, extremely similar deck overall. Just very slight differences, and those differences being Zan ran three Felicias, one Felicia, two Mulans. So he cut two of the Felicias for two Mulans. And I think it looks like we have 3 and 4 on the T-pos as well. So another difference there. But really good job, gentlemen, taking third and fourth in an 83-person event. Zan going a different route than his normal green steel, just to, mess with people, have a little bit of fun, and do his thing. So really, really great showing, gentlemen. Next up, we have Brian taking fifth with green purple. And look at this green purple list. This is really neat because look at the top end. We're running 2 Ursulas and 3 Clarabelles. And when you look at this list, it's really interesting because we had Mo on the channel just the other day. I'll put that down in the description, but he, runs a much different list where he's running way more one drops, not running any of this top end, not running Mother's Knows Best. But then you see Brian come in here and do really well, taking fifth at an 83-person event with 5 cards on the top end and a Mother Knows Best. So just in that card, you get to return a chosen character to its player, to the player's hand, to their player's hand, and that's really good because that's anything. That's a Maui Half Shark. That is an easy answer for green purple for a Maui Half Shark. So you can just go down, you go super wide, you play a Mother Knows Best on their Half Shark. Now they need 2 more turns to get it going. So you just do all these nutty things, and meanwhile, if you get an Ursula down, now they can't sing. They can't sing these songs, and so that becomes an issue. They can't sing How Far I'll Go. They can't sing Pirate's Life, so now they're having to hard cast those cards, and they only play to 6 or 7 ink normally in those red-blue burn decks, and then Clarabelle just coming in and being annoying for other decks. So I really like how you teched this into what I think you thought would be a really heavy red-blue meta and it sounds like it was. So it worked out really well for you. So really great showing, Brian. We love to see some green-purple success. Next up, we have Jonathan, and this is probably the most talked about deck that in the entire weekend, if not Freddy beating red-blue. But this deck came in and showed us what combos are all about when they're thoroughly explored. And what I'm talking about is Jonathan had this crazy turn. Steel Song had like 6 characters down, but Jonathan had a Maui Half Shark down. And with that Maui Half Shark, Jonathan was then able to play One Last Hope, which gives a hero resist +2, and it lets him challenge ready characters. So he gives One Last Hope to Maui Half Shark, which is a hero, and then Maui Half Shark challenges a character, and he's in action. So now you get his effect, so you could bring back something. But then you play Fan the Flames, which readies chosen character. They can't quest this turn, but they can still challenge. So you use Fan the Flames to ready Maui. Maui challenges something. Then you bring back Fan the Flames with Maui's effect, and then you challenge something else because you can still challenge ready characters. Then you bring back Fan the Flames. All the time, One Last Hope has given your Maui resist +2. It is a crazy combo. It's a crazy sexy combo. It is amazing. You could even go as far as you use Maui to sing Zeus if you can't hit something because you'll lose your Maui, and then you use Fan the Flames again to ready it. There's so many things, and then to top it all off, the last character you remove with Maui, you can use to bring back One Last Hope. So sexy. And then it doesn't even stop there. Calhoun is a hero, so you can use One Last Hope on Calhoun. You can use Fan the Flames on Calhoun, so Calhoun can challenge something early on, like a Flynn Rider, and then use Fan the Flames, and then it can challenge another Flynn Rider, and you gained 4 lore with 1 character and cleared 2 big threats. You have Raya that's able to start readying your characters. You have Mickey Mouse, coming down on shift 3, and giving your Smee +2 attack, or this character doesn't take any damage when it challenges this turn. So your Smee can challenge into something and then it doesn't get banished, which is super, super sexy as well. There's so many things with this list that is just so beautiful to look at. And Jonathan really showed us what what can happen when you leave the meta and just really brainstorm. And what he brainstormed and showed us that Ruby Steel can kick some butt, and it really did, and it did really well. Jonathan, this is I love to see Amber Steel win, but without a doubt, this is my favorite list to see win, or my favorite list to see out of the two events. Like, really awesome, man. Good job. Next up, we have Wochuk taking 8th place. Did I forget? I forgot 7th. I will throw it in here on the editing. But Wochuk taking 8th place. And in Wochuk's list, this is the Wochuk list, all right? He is known for no shift targets. He really loves to go that 1 drop into 2 into Gaston to sing Whole New World, or Ariel to dig for Whole New World. The only difference that a lot of people may not have seen is that he's running the Neverland package. And his hopes for this is it's an easy ink against purple, and then against red decks, when he uses World or Whole New World, he's using these Neverlands like he did with Harps back in the day. But you can't B-prep a Neverland, which is really sexy. So if you Whole New World into 4 Neverlands, you're not really upset about it because you can just throw them all down, and then they're gaining 1 lore per turn, and you can only answer 1 per turn typically. So Wochuk just doing this classic, if I get a Whole New World on turn 3, or if I get to cast it on turn 4, I probably win. And unfortunately, I think his opponent in top 8 was red-blue, so his red-blue curse lives on. But I could see if it was also the green-purple player. Because that Ursula just digging for Whole New World and taking it. But we love to see it. Wochuk, congratulations, man. It's good to see you compete. We haven't seen you compete for a while. But love to see you still running that 1 Nala, good for you. But just doing that classic no shift thing that you love to do so much. So if you are curious about the deck, Wochuk does have a guide as well on Metafy. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the whole event. It was great. I can't stress enough it's the support that you should give Southside Gaming. They're really going above and beyond to help the community. These $15 entries for these massive events is just a wild. $25 entry for a 10K. That way you could walk away with $3,000. And then it's also just a really nice store. So check them out, guys. All their social media stuff will be in the description as well. And then make sure you check out the giveaway. Like and comment on that so you can get thrown in there for a whole bunch of different things. And remember the Disney trivia thing. I told you I'd tell you the answer. So in the original Aladdin, Genie, or not Genie, but Jafar, his wish in the original Aladdin is that he wants to be a genie. He wants to be an all-powerful genie. But in the remake, he wants to be the most powerful being in the universe. And in the remake, it's really interesting because they even emphasize him saying being a lot. Like, they really emphasize that. There's like a pause with it, and he really enunciates it. So they want people to know that they made that change from genie to being. But there's your Disney trivia for the day. Remember, if you got the answer, let me know in the comments, and hit me with your Disney trivia, and I'll pick a comment and throw it in the next video that's not the spoiler video. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, always remember, stay happy and healthy. I'll see you around.